Welcome to the Mentally Stronger podcast, the podcast where with every episode, we're learning practical ways to let go of stress and struggles, grow our mental strength, and live a happier, healthier, more meaningful life. I'm your host, Melly O'Brien, co-founder of Mindfulness.com and creator of the Deep Resilience Method. I'm so glad to have you here with me today. Let's dive in to today's episode. It's a beautiful spring day here in northern New South Wales, Australia. Spring is here. I know the rest of you on the other side of the planet are slowly gliding into the stillness of winter. We are emerging into the vibrancy and the activity and the color and the movement of spring over here. And where I live, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you'll know this. Where I live, I'm on a 150-acre property where I live with a small community surrounded by nature, and the animals are alive now. It's really interesting when you live in a place like this, just watching the forest kind of come to life. Even at night at the moment, one of the most beautiful things about this time of year is we have fireflies and glowing mushrooms, if you can believe that. So it's kind of a bit of a cool Garden of Eden in this area at this time of year. Today, I am sharing with you one of my favorite go-to practices that I use on a very consistent basis. It's called a habit releaser, and this is a tool that you can use to break old habits. This tool I discovered in a book called Mindfulness, Finding Peace in a Frantic World, and it's by Emeritus Professor of Psychology at Oxford University, Mark Williams, who is just a genuine, wonderful man who I've had the privilege of interviewing. He's one of the sweetest people. Sometimes when you interview people, there are people who are maybe a little bit different on camera to off camera. Mark is just like the most genuine, kind, patient, really, really sweet man. So this tool, I love it. It's powerful. It's easy to deploy in your life and integrate into your daily life. So I'm going to share it with you. But before I do, I just want to go through a little bit about why this tool matters so much for us and how it works. So for most of us, as we go about our day-to-day life, we tend to do a lot of what we do in what we would call autopilot mode. That is to say that we're doing whatever we're doing, but while we're doing it, we're actually kind of lost in our heads, right? We're lost in our wandering thoughts. So autopilot is the state of mind where most of our attention is not present in the moment. It is, in fact, caught up in our wandering thoughts, right? Now, you'll know autopilot if you've ever gone to drive to like an event, but you ended up taking the same turnoff that you always take when you go to work or you go somewhere else, which most of us have done. That's an example of being on autopilot mode, right? So you were probably lost in your wandering thoughts and you just did what you normally do out of habit, because that's what we do on autopilot mode. We just follow the past conditioning that has been set up within us instead of living more intentionally, right? So we're not fully present in the moment when we're on autopilot mode. Now, the challenge with being on autopilot mode, one of them is exactly what I just said. So when we're on autopilot mode, what we tend to do is we tend to live out of habit, automaticity, and reactivity instead of living deliberately. Importantly, we tend to just go through the motions, only half here, and we miss out on being fully present for our moments, for our loved ones, for our lives. So life, instead of feeling rich and full, can start to feel quite dull because we're kind of just a little bit phased out and we keep playing out the same mental, emotional, and behavioral patterns over and over again, whether or not they are good and helpful for us or not so good and really not helpful for us. We just keep doing them again and again and again. Much of our automaticity, our autopilot mode, is shown in the fact that we tend to do the same thing day in, day out, the same way. We sit in the same seat at the dining table or at work. We go the same route to work. We do the same thing when we wake up, right? For many of us, it's either grabbing the iPhone or grabbing a coffee, and we make our coffee the same way. We use the same coffee cup. We go to a lot of the same places and we do the same things. We order the same things. We have the same habits, right? So the idea of a habit releaser is that you're going to begin to deliberately break the chain of habitual things that you do each day, thereby bringing more awareness to them, which in turn interrupts the habit of just slipping into autopilot mode and playing out your usual patterns, whether they're mental, emotional, or behavioral. So, for example, a simple way to bring more awareness into your life and start to break the pattern of autopilot living is really simple. You might just choose to sit in a different chair at the dining table or in the living room or on the train or on the bus, or sleep on the other side of the bed at night, or take a slightly different route to work, go to a different place for lunch, slightly shake up your routines, use a different cup instead of your normal coffee cup. It might mean doing just something slightly different when you first wake up. If you usually grab your iPhone, why not try walking outside and stretching, or just waiting for even 5 minutes before doing that thing? Other ideas for habit releases that you can try are brushing your teeth with a different hand, just going a different way to work. If you find yourself lost in your thoughts during the day, you could try physically stopping, taking a deep breath, and then proceeding. So you're kind of breaking the particular thought pattern that you were lost in, right? You could try a different restaurant that you've never tried before, or a different dish that you've never ordered before. If you really want to get super creative, you can also interrupt your thinking patterns just by noticing them, taking that breath, and then just think some different thoughts to what you usually think. And you can be really kind of playful and experimental and adventurous with this. So if the mind wanders off in an unhelpful direction, you can just see what it's like to think a completely opposite kind of thought, or to hold your body language in a completely different way in that moment. You can get really creative and have some fun with this. So here's my invitation to you for the week ahead. Have a little bit of an experiment with this practice. Here's a suggestion of what you could do. You could pick right now 3 things that you would like to try doing differently to your usual routine. You might want to note them down or talk to someone about them, and just try consistently shaking up those things and notice what benefits come, what effects happen in your mind, in your body, and in your life when you break the habit of autopilot mode and do things differently. I think you're going to find that if you consistently use these habit releases, you can bring more awareness, intention, and fun into your life. If variety is the spice of life, then repeating the same patterns over and over again on autopilot mode is probably dampening some of that spice. So try this out, bring in some variety, shake it up, wake it up, live less on autopilot and a little bit more with intention, awareness, and a sense of adventure. I'd love to hear how this practice goes for you, so feel free to share your stories and wins with me on socials. I love hearing from you. Wishing you a great week of practice with this, and as always, thank you for your practice and your presence here with us. I'll see you next time. Until then, take care. someone who you think might benefit from listening to this episode, share it with them. Sharing it could really help them to feel better and improve the quality of their life. And if you found this episode helpful, remember to subscribe to the podcast so that you can receive more tips on growing your mental strength, and you can keep practicing along with us every week. If you are wanting more support in becoming mentally stronger, come over to my website and take a look at all the coaching and training options that I have there for you. And I also have a bunch of free resources, including a 5-day mental strength challenge that you can begin right away to kickstart your mental strength, improve your mental well-being, as well as your happiness and resilience. You can find all the links for this in the show notes. Thanks again for tuning in. Take care and stay strong.